On Mavericks today, we're going to tell you why P.J. Washington is Dallas's secret weapon for the upcoming season. Should be fun to see a full year of him in Dallas. Harrison Graham and Jeffrey Cooperstein with you here on today's show. Before we get into that, Coop, tell the people why you got to get us to 30,000 subscribers.
We are covering the Mavs every day throughout the offseason and during the season as well. We're going to do some live watch parties with you guys, hopefully get some unique content that you guys will really enjoy and be able to interact with. So please help us get to 30,000 subscribers. Our bosses said if we get there by the season, we're going to be able to do a watch party for the first game against the Spurs. So if you guys want that, hit that subscribe button right now and help us reach our goals of getting to 30,000 subs.
I know there's 68 people watching right now who haven't subscribed. It's free. Make sure you do so. All right, Coop. P.J. Washington, 29 games with the Mavs. Of course, the playoffs as well. His offensive game was kind of up and down once he came over, but really where he excelled and I think made a big difference on this team was his ability to kind of be a defensive stopper.
Yes.
I don't know if he's an all-NBA defender or anything like that moving forward, but clearly he's going to play a big role on that end and really just being kind of an enforcer and tough guy, if you will, for this team.
This is my favorite picture ever,
yeah,
by the way.
I think he's gonna bring the vibes and the juice, especially defensively.
Yeah, and that's what he really needs to do on this team. That's going to be his role, especially with the new addition of Klay Thompson into the starting lineup, who used to be an all-NBA defender. He isn't quite that anymore. PJ is going to be the guy that's relied on the most outside on the perimeter to guard the opposing team's best player, especially with Luka, Kyrie, and Klay. You'll have Derek Lively as the defensive anchor there in the paint. Washington's going to have to be the rover, the guy that's going to be being the most active on the defensive end. He's going to expend a lot of energy there. And the Mavs are really expecting a lot from Washington this year, and he showed that he was able to handle it last season and in the postseason as well, and his role is going to expand even more here.
Yeah, and I think you saw in the playoffs, too, glimpses of him being a plus offensive player, too. Like those middle two rounds in particular against OKC and Minnesota, he shot the ball pretty well. And now you look at the overall splits, just under 43%, just under 35%. But he lit OKC up a couple of times. I think he had, a 29 and a 27-point game, which really, without him in that series, I'm not sure they win it.
Oh, no, they don't.
That was probably the series Luka was beat up the most.
And Kyrie had a couple games where he had less than 10 points as well. Look, he was a straight-up dog in the postseason, and they don't get to the finals without his contributions either. I don't think he was like a verbal leader, kind of like Kyrie and Markieff Morris and Luka were, but he was kind of a lead by example guy and a guy that you get in the foxhole with, you're gonna grind with, and he sets the example. He brings the energy, kind of like Daniel Gafford did as well. Both those guys, deadline acquisitions, they really brought a different energy and enthusiasm about them, and they were both big reasons. But Washington especially, man, I mean, he exceeded all of my expectations I had for him.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think there's a couple reasons for that, right? One, he gets out of the shithole that is the Charlotte Hornets.
Horrible.
Two, he is a Dallas guy, so I think he wears that jersey with pride. I think you could feel that when he played. And just the opportunity to play for a contender, such a breath of fresh air, and you saw him elevate his game. I mean, he was never known as a defensive guy
at all
in Charlotte. And I think it goes to show, like, I think players get certain labels, and a lot of the time it's true, but I think sometimes it's not. It's like, if I'm playing for Portland and we suck, I'm probably not giving everything I got defensively.
Environment matters, man. It absolutely matters. And once he went from Charlotte, who might be the worst run organization in the NBA, to the Mavs, who were competing for a playoff spot and ended up making the finals, it does make a world of difference.
Here's what Washington said on improving his game this year. He said, my ball handling, being able to rebound the ball and just push and be another outlet, being able to shoot off the dribble, pretty much everything. Working on finishing through contact, just trying to be a better three-level scorer and trying to be a better playmaker. And Coop, he's a crafty ISO scorer,
yes,
but if he tightens up his handle even more, we saw that a few times in the was it the Minnesota series? I can't remember which series it was, where basically they were defending him super small, and he just finally decided to put the ball on the deck and just get to the rim because they couldn't defend him. So, like, if he can do that at a more efficient clip and recognize the opportunities based on how teams are defending Dallas, because teams are going to have to pick their poison. Like, Are you going to double Luka? If you do, Kyrie's going to get good opportunities.
Exactly.
If you're putting your best two defenders on Luka and Kyrie, that means PJ's probably got a pretty good matchup. So while he's going to be a secondary scorer, I do think there's going to be opportunities for him to be an isolation player as well.
Yeah, he's going to get his fair share of opportunities, and if he improves as a ball handler, is able to put it on the floor more efficiently and just better overall, especially on a fast break as well, when there's a missed shot and the Mavs get out and run, he's going to be a huge asset on the offensive end. As a playmaker, if he can find Klay Thompson in the corner on a fast break, that only helps out Luka and Kyrie as far as getting their usage rates down and them not having to do as much. So if he's actually improved on all the things he said he was working on, that would be a huge boost for the Mavs.
What do you guys think? More or less than 13.5 points per game for PJ Washington this year? Type M for more or L for less. It's a pretty good number set by my good friend Jeffrey Cooperstein, and that's what PrizePicks does. They set more or less stat projections, and you choose more or less. 2 to 6 players on any given entry. PrizePicks is today's sponsor. It is daily fantasy sports made easy. That's how it works. You set your lineups, you choose more or less, and if you hit correctly, you make some money. Basketball season will be here before we know it. Football is underway, and baseball is in the final stretch. And get going with PrizePicks and set some lineups today. We've got a little football 3-player entry here. They got a deal in the month of September for Caleb Williams, more or less than half
Free
a
money.
passing yard. Free money. Get the more there. Pair that with another player, 2 players, however many, up to 6 that you want. And we got Josh Allen less on his passing yards and then 2 more on his for a little Thursday action as well. PrizePicks.com/CLNS. The code CLNS gets you a $50 bonus once you play for $5 initially. So $5, win or lose, doesn't matter. You're going to get 50. That's free bread to me. Check the comments, check the description. Link and promo code will be in there. All right, Coop. Big picture, what is PJ Washington's role on this team, and how do we see him fitting with this group?
Yeah, look, I think the big picture is he's your starting 4 in the 5 with Luka, Kyrie, Klay Thompson, and Derek Lively, and he's going to be the one that they rely on the defensive end. It's him and Najee Marshall who are going to be responsible for guarding the opposing team's best player on any given night, and is Washington ready for that kind of role? I think that remains to be seen. He's certainly up to the challenge, but I'm not sure. He's never really had a role like this. Again, he was with Charlotte, who was an awful organization. They never even came close to sniffing the playoffs. So hopefully that, Jaosn Kidd can kind of put him in a position to succeed. And here's what Basketball Reference had as his stat projections for next year. We did this with another player earlier this week. They have him at almost 16 points a game and over a steal and a block per game. He averaged 1.2 steals a game with the Mavs in his 29 games so far, so that seems pretty reasonable. And if he's giving you these numbers, man, you can't be mad about it.
I feel like those points are high. Not
Agreed.
that he's not capable of it, but
The opportunities.
Luka and Kyrie are going to average at minimum 50 plus between those two. Klay, I would think, averages more points than PJ, although that could be closer than we think. I'll tell you what, if he's averaging 16 a game and shoots from mid-40s from the field, mid-30s from 3, and defends like he did last year, like, it's not an all-star, but it's a high-level starter.
Absolutely.
I mean, I think if you got kind of that number you threw out there, 13 and a half points at slightly better efficiency splits than a year ago, I think you'd be pretty happy.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, the offensive numbers, frankly, to me, don't really matter with PJ because I know the Mavs are going to score at a pretty high level, whether it's with him or without him. You'll get contributions from Derek Lively. You'll get contributions from Spencer Dinwiddie off the bench. Like, you will find ways to score. The only thing that matters with PJ Washington is he has to be the guy on defense. And I think he knows that, and I think the Mavs know that as well.
Yeah, I mean, especially in those starting and potentially what the closing lineup is. Like, to start these games, like, he's your best defender outside of Derek Lively and maybe even more impactful than Lively early in this season. I think Luka is going to have to accept that he's going to have to carry over what he did last year and defend at least at a solid clip. Because in reality, Klay is just limited now on that end. Kyrie, he tries. He tried last year and he was better, but at 6'2" or whatever,
he's limited.
He's not going to lock people down. So PJ's got to be the guy who can be that stopper at times, and I think he'll take on that role really well. Make sure you guys subscribe to the channel. We will continue to plug out content on just about a daily basis, and once we get into the season, it'll ramp up even more. So Subscribe today. It's free. Trying to get to 30,000 subscribers. All right, Coop, what's rolling or what's going on with this potential rule change here?
Yeah, we got a couple of just news and notes before we get out of here. So the NBA is now going to allow replay officials to cover whether a foul should have been called on a play when there's an out-of-bounds situation. So basically, this is the Jaden McDaniels rule, because if you remember in the Western Conference Finals, there was that play where there was an out-of-bounds rule. It was initially ruled Minnesota ball. It was overturned to be Mavericks ball, but Kyrie fouled Jaden McDaniels.
Yeah.
However, they couldn't call the foul. So now they'll be able to call the foul. Yeah, it's good that they'll be able to get more calls right, but then again, it's going to add another 30 seconds to replay. So I don't love that, because replays already take way too long in the NBA.
So are you going to have to challenge it, or is it
No,
just...
it's part of the automatic review, or if you do challenge an out-of-bounds, any out-of-bounds call, it'll be that way. So.
Yeah, so it's Jay McDaniels. It also reminds me of the Texas Tech Virginia deal a few years
Yes,
ago,
exactly.
where the Tech guy clearly got fouled, but you couldn't review that. You could only review who touched the ball last, and it was out on the Tech guy.
So now you can review the foul.
I think that's probably the way to go, because there's nothing worse than watching a replay and being like, yeah, he touched it, but he also got slapped in the arm, so what are we really doing here? So that's probably the way to go. How about a little City Edition?
Yes.
How do we feel about these?
So these are they're the same jerseys from last year, except they're inverse. So they're white instead of black. I really like them. Look, I think they should keep the black one as a permanent uniform from last year. I think they should make these their permanent home uniforms going forward. I don't think they will, but I really like them. I think they're awesome.
Do you like the gray numbers with the blue outline on the white jersey?
Yeah, I don't hate that. Maybe I'd rather have blue numbers, but I think the gray looks fine. Look, I think these are great jerseys, and the Mavs, for the most part, have had really good luck with their City Editions. Whoever's designing them is doing a great job, because they really haven't missed.
Yeah, those have been pretty solid. All right, what do you guys think is the best City Edition jersey the Mavs have had? Let us know in the comments below, and we will see you guys tomorrow with another episode of Mavericks Today.
Peace out.